introduce everybody and let us know your name and if you're a staff member or a community member or just how you're affiliated with the school or what your involvement is. So we'll start at the other end with you, Terry.
Terry Kamladi, school board. Tracy Rose, school board member.
Fred Sonnemeyer, vice chair, school board.
Carol Vickery, school board member, and Karen Mitchell, board member and chair. We'll start on the side with you, Jen. Jennifer Ortown, board secretary, and John secretary. Katrina Womack, student services director. Susanna Sonnemeyer, and this week is my code and master.
I'm along with her.
Kimberly Rose, principal at elementary school.
Laura Pierce Cummings, principal at the high school.
Adriana Ramirez, instructional assistant at the middle school.
Brooke Mendez, community member, parent of 2 kids here at the middle school, and worked at the elementary school for the past 2 years.
Mike Mendez, community member, also parent of 2 children here, one at the middle school, one at the elementary. Two of them. Good idea. And also part of the board for Parks and Rec.
Oh, sorry guys, I'm working back here. I am Kyle DiMartino. I'm new to the district. I am the technology director.
I'm Abigail Darby, and I work at the elementary school for the special education program.
I'm Taylor Smith. I have a daughter at the elementary school.
I'm Shannon Higgins. I have 3 children in the elementary school.
I'm Matt Wilson. I have 2 kids, one in middle school, one in high school, and one in Jefferson.
I'm Barbie Hemmer, county specialist in the district.
I'm Hattie Stewart, the business finance manager here at the district.
Terry Nicholson, HR specialist. Sharon Short, talent nutrition. Part-time role, 2 elementary school.
On the faculty, 2 elementary school kids and 1 on the way.
Okay. Oh wait, no.
We're so excited for you.
She's 3. She will be she's on the way to school.
Ryan Cackley, 2 kids in elementary school and apparently another on the way.
Great place to announce it.
So we're just finishing up some introductions.
Oh,
We're just asking you guys
perfect.
to say your guys' name and your affiliation with the school. If you're a community member, parent, staff.
I'm Casey Connect, I'm a parent.
I'm Kylia Connect. I'm a parent.
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for being here. What we're gonna do this next 26 minutes is we're gonna kind of compile some questions that you guys have that you guys want to bring up to the superintendent tonight so that we can ask them. What you guys have at your tables is an agenda for how the night's gonna kind of flow. There's also a list of questions. This does not mean you have to ask any of those questions on the list, or you can ask all the questions on the list if that's what you guys want to do. These were provided by COSA, so it just gives you some ideas that we can work off of. But what we're asking is if you guys could write the questions down 1 per card. You guys have note cards at each of the tables, and just fill out what you would like to ask. And then what we're gonna do after this is we'll kind of compile the questions. We'll kind of keep it so we don't have any duplicates because time is of the essence. I know everyone would love to go home at some point tonight. So we'll just kind of go through the questions, make sure we don't have any doubles or triples or quadruples. Weed those out, and then we'll come up with what you guys have came up with for your final questions. We'll try to, like I said, try to keep it within that hour time frame. We're looking for about 15-ish questions to give her plenty of time to answer. And then we'll actually have open forum at the end too. If something didn't quite get answered or didn't fit in there, you guys are welcome to ask at the end too. Does that kind of make sense? Questions?
Who's COSA?
So COSA's the
Coalition of School
Thank you.
Administrators.
They're the ones that helped us with our superintendent search. So we didn't work through OSBA because that would have cost the district a lot of money to help us find a superintendent. COSA was a free option to help us find qualified superintendent candidates. So we've relied on them to help us through this process. We told them that we wanted to involve the community and allow you guys to ask questions and help us with the hiring of a permanent superintendent. So they're just helping us with fulfilling that promise of having our town hall. Any other questions? I know that was really fast. I just know that it's gonna go really fast tonight. So please take a look at their questions or write down things that have been on your mind for a week and just turn them into us and we'll start going through them at the end. Great. Thank you.
Should we get it on the table?
Oh, I like that. I like that. Want some more time? Nope, we're good. Okay, I don't want to make any of you guys move because I'm so grateful that we had such a great turnout, but I am gonna move the board to the other room and just go through the questions and, like I said, get rid of any duplicates. And then that gives us a few more minutes on our end.
You want to
so.
get some new, or you want to just, okay, yeah, I don't know. We can
Okay.
get some more cards.
All right, we will be back. Thank
Just
you.
add a few of those cards in case we combine the
And we were saying like, there's only 5, send them home. Yeah. So I emailed their teachers, the teachers that teach those 5. And said, will you check and see if it's
Not yet.
at the end of the day, and if it isn't,
And then that will be off your plate.
No, go ahead.
All right, thanks.
yeah.
Okay, you guys, I just want to tell you, we really appreciate all those questions. There's only a couple of them that were kind of duplicated, and we ended up putting those together as questions. We came up with, there's 35 different questions. That's going to be a little hard to do in just an hour. But, we'd like to get all these questions answered, so this might go on past 8 o'clock. What our projected time was, but if you guys are okay and you want to listen to the answers, you're more than welcome to stay. So we're going to wait for Terry to get back here, and then we'll bring it on.
How was everybody's Christmas?
Oh,
Enjoyable?
that's an open question.
Keeps the conversation.
Boy, you guys asked some good questions.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
really,
very good.
they're very thought-provoking.
We all went to Jefferson.
How many comments? Yeah. Did you check your phone? How many text messages do you have? Thankfully, I don't think the online crowd is very large, so probably not a lot to check. I get it. Yeah, but
If we do all 35 questions and it takes 5 minutes, that's 3 hours of answering.
I don't think some of them are going to be 3 hours.
5 minutes? I said five, if they take
Yeah,
5 minutes.
I don't think some of them will be 5 minutes.
Couple pages, couple minutes.
Okay.
They were all.
Trina, you got to doing the math.
I was doing the math, man. I mean, math.
Why don't you go get it?
I told her maybe
I know. We had the hardest time figuring out what the we're doing at dinner tonight. We could not figure it out. Well, no, because it's like, we need to get the kids over to Florida. We had to bring the food over there. I'm like, okay, well, we need to we're gonna go to 4 to 6 to get food. So we together. I was like, we eat after. The only thing open after is Tommy's. Well, our kids ate. Or, I literally mentioned, I'm like, after the game. I don't know if you guys did, but I was like, let's remember, no fries to go for it. We did Taco Bell. Oh, that is also.
I believe so. I haven't gone through the process, but everything.
Listen, we thought we were eating Costco pizza.
I know. Tonight?
No, at the Glucose.
Oh.
We had no. We can get rid of them.
No, literally, we were like trying to do the same deal because it's 6 o'clock. Because that's usually when we eat. And so I was like, you know what, let's just have the kids eat pizza. I'd like eat dinner.
Nope. That's okay. We don't need one.
Okay, you guys, I'd like to introduce our fabulous superintendent, Dawn Moorefield, and she's going to take the district into the new century.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think that I am, is it okay if I move around, will they still be able to hear me?
They should.
Okay. So I want to be able to see when I'm presenting. So first of all, thank you so much for taking your evening to come out. I know it's asking a lot of you to take time away from your families to be here, so I appreciate that.
As soon as you walk through the door, it's been up all day.
It's a trick. So for those of you that were here on District Day, which would include all of the staff that work for Jefferson, what I'm going to share with you tonight is going to sound very familiar because I presented it to you on District Day. For those of you that are not staff members, this gives me an opportunity to introduce myself and share a little bit about who I am. So first of all, let me just start by saying this is my 31st year in education. I've done a lot of things over the years, and I believe that doing all of those things has really given me the knowledge and skills that I need in order to lead Jefferson. I've got over 3 decades of experience in education. I started as a 5th grade teacher in a large elementary school in Missouri. Then I transferred out here to Oregon, where I started my, career in Oregon at Cascade School District, and I was with Cascade for 26 years. During that time, I taught grades 6 through 8, various subject areas. Then I became an elementary principal and was responsible for leading and overseeing 2 elementary schools in the district, 2 very different elementary schools that had different types of students, different types of families. One was a small elementary, Cloverdale had about 125 kids, and Turner Elementary had about 252 students. Did that for about 6 years and then picked up and moved into the district office where I became the Director of Instructional Services. And at that point I was responsible for overseeing curriculum, instruction, assessment, and professional development for the district. Did that for a couple of years and then was asked by my superintendent if I would also pick up human resources. So was doing that and curriculum instruction, professional development, and assessment for about 10 years. And that's whenever I became assistant superintendent. As I was working through, or as the Director of Human Resources, I was responsible for anything related to human resources, hiring, interviewing, making sure that all of our staff completed mandatory training, developing evaluation systems for certified, classified, and administrators, as well as I was the lead negotiator for the district for our negotiations when we were negotiating contracts with our classified and certified staff. My education, I have a Bachelor of Arts in Elementary Education that I got from Webster University in St. Louis. I earned my master's degree in Educational Policy and Management from the University of Oregon, and then I completed a continuing administrator licensure program from Portland State University. The next several slides that I'm going to go through with you really talk about my core values of how I lead and who I am as a leader. These are the ones that are most important to me and have helped guide me throughout my educational career and really guide my decisions day in and day out. The most important of which happens to be integrity. And my graphic up there shows you integrity at the bottom, and I really believe that integrity is the foundation of my leadership, and it also builds the foundation for trust. The other 4 pillars that are in the piece that you see up on the board have to do with collaboration, compassion, connection, and vision. And all of those things working together for me help build that trust that we need. The importance of building trust within an organization is that it helps to foster that collaboration, improves communication, and also leads to better outcomes. If you think about it, employees who trust their leaders are easier able to communicate with their leaders, they're more committed to their work, and also gives them the opportunity and feeling that they can voice their concerns and opinions. So for me, most important, bottom line, integrity. It's the foundation of trust, but it's also the foundation of everything that I do, every decision that I make day in and day out. And what this looks like to me is acting with honesty and transparency. It also means making ethical decisions, modeling high standards of conduct, but also expecting that my staff model high standards of conduct as well. Integrity is also keeping those lines of communication open with all stakeholders. And I'm not talking just about the board, I'm talking about staff, I'm talking about parents. It also means holding myself and others accountable. If I make a mistake, I'm going to own up to that mistake. The next value that's really important to me is collaboration. And we all know that we achieve more when we work together, and nobody can do this job alone. Not a teacher, not any of the staff members, not me. We have to work together. When we're collaborating, we're fostering that open communication, fostering that mutual respect. When we're collaborating, we're also engaging in dialogue and hopefully creating safe spaces for people to exchange in that dialogue. When we're collaborating, we're also modeling active listening. It's important to note, though, whenever you're collaborating, that you have to build strong teams, and those strong teams have to have diverse perspectives. Having diverse perspectives means that we get different viewpoints that can enhance our creativity, can also enhance our problem-solving abilities. Teams have to have clear goals, they have to have clear goals, and they have to have a shared sense of purpose. When we're collaborating together, we're empowering our stakeholders to contribute to their unique strengths and also involving others in our decision-making processes. There may be times when we have teams where we have teachers, students, parents, and community members involved in that decision-making process. The next important value for me is compassion and leading with empathy. Compassion in education is extremely important and is essential for creating a very supportive and inclusive environment where not just our students feel valued and respected and safe, but everyone feels valued, respected, and safe. It means that we are actively listening to concerns, we're celebrating successes. When we're actively listening to concerns of our constituents or our students or our families, we're practicing patience. Being patient means you're being an active listener. We can also, in practicing that patience and being an active listener, we're able to offer guidance through any challenging situations we might come across. The next value for me that is important is building those meaningful relationships and making connections. We know that when we make connections that we're building strong relationships, and those strong relationships foster collaboration, compassion, and integrity. It's important as educators that we get to know students and staff and families on a personal level, so that when we're talking to them, we're creating opportunities for meaningful interaction. We know something about you, and we can share those values together. We can connect with each other. It also gives us an opportunity to celebrate diversity and to foster a sense of belonging for all of us. And the next, I guess my last important value for me is having a vision and making sure that that vision is clear and inspiring. We know that if you have a clear and inspiring vision, it's something that can motivate us and unite us as a group. It's important that we articulate that vision for the future of Jefferson School District. It's important that everything that we do, the goals that we set, the actions that we take, align with that vision. And by having a clear, motivating, and inspiring vision, it inspires others to embrace the possibilities of what we can do in Jefferson. And finally, it is my hope that with the skills and knowledge that I bring to Jefferson School District and leading with my core values of integrity, collaboration, connection, compassion, and vision, that will create an environment where staff, students, parents, and the community feel valued, heard, and respected, and we can all work toward the goal of inspiring, empowering, and preparing all of our students to be successful. And that's it. Do you have any questions besides the 150 that you came up with? Only 32.
32. That was great, thank you. So Dawn, some of these questions are longer, so we're gonna give the cards to you after we read them,
So that I can look at them.
in
Okay.
case there's anything that we rushed over or that we just wanna make sure that you have a chance to look them over too.
Okay.
And I'm gonna have some of the board members read these off too. So, our first one, I thought this was a really great question for kind of an icebreaker, so we're gonna start with this one. Why this district and why now?
Oh, that's a really good question. I felt like Jefferson was a district that I could come to, that I could bring my skills and knowledge to help you be successful, to help bridge gaps, to help build trust, to make things better. This is, being 31 years in education, one would say that this is probably getting toward the end of my career. And I just felt like it was a challenge, and I was interested in the challenge. Working in Cascade, the communities are similar in numerous ways, so I felt like it was a good move to come over into a community that was similar to where I had been working for 26 years. And I was ready to lead a district. Frankly, I was tired of being number 2. That's pretty blunt and honest, I guess. But I just felt like I was ready. It was time.
Okay, so this is a good follow-up question. If hired permanently, how long would you stay?
Well,
That's like how much stress
I will be honest, I can retire from PERS in 3 years. That does not mean that I would do that. I'm not ready to retire. And honestly, I don't see me wanting to go anywhere else. I feel like there's a lot to do here in Jefferson. There are a lot of improvements that can be made in the school district, and I want to see that through. So I guess as long as it takes for me to get the job done, and for however long you would have me.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous are you right now?
That's not a
Oh, my bad. All right. Don't you guys want to know? I kind of want to know.
Probably 5.
This is all kind of one. I'll just ask them one at a time. Though there's 3 of them. They're all kind of the same topic. How often do you plan to visit the classrooms, or are you visiting the classrooms?
I've made it to a couple of high school classrooms. It's really hard, to be honest with you, to get out and visit the classrooms, and I want to be able to get out and visit more. I feel like the beginning of the school year, there has been an awful lot for me to learn about the district, and a lot of things that needed to get done, processes and procedures. So I don't have a specific goal of how often I want to be out in the classrooms, but I do want to go out. It gives me joy to get out into the classrooms. I've been to a couple of the high school math classes to watch some of the new skills that they've been learning through some professional development that our high school math teachers have been taking, and that is just exciting for me. So I think once I get my feet on the ground and can really kind of schedule that time out, I'd like to be in the classrooms often.
And I'll just read the next two concurrently. How do you lean on staff right now to make decisions for the students? And how do you involve yourself in classrooms as a superintendent? And you already touched on some of that already.
Yeah.
I'll give you this one though,
Okay.
in case you need it.
So how do I lean on staff to make decisions for students? Well, first thing I will tell you is I meet with my building principals and my special ed director once a week. And if I have an agenda, we go over the things on the agenda. But if there's also things that we need to discuss as an administrative team, then that's our opportunity to do so. I also meet with what I call our leadership team on a monthly basis, and that is all of our administrators and all of our directors, our food service director, our maintenance director, our special services director, business manager, my HR assistant, and my executive assistant. We meet on a monthly basis. And again, have an agenda. There's things that we go over. If there's decisions that need to be made, then we do it at that point in time. It's not very often that I make a decision sitting in my office by myself. I will ask either other administrators or people in my office with regard to decisions. So for me, it really is a team process. Occasionally, there's going to be decisions that are I decisions or me decisions and not we decisions. But those would be few and far between. And how do I involve myself in classrooms as a superintendent? I think being there to, like with math at the high school, watching lessons, watching what our teachers have learned. I would like to be able to go at least, into the elementary building and be able to read to kids. That's important. Now this is not classrooms, but I have been to multiple evening events at the high school, at the middle school, as well as at the elementary school. So trying to attend as many of those types of events as I can, at least in the beginning, is what I've really been focused on. I want to be able to get into the classrooms. I think that's an important piece, but I also don't want staff to think that I'm spying on them by being in the classroom, because that's not at all the reason why I would be in a classroom. Like I said earlier, it gives me joy to be with kids and to watch kids learn.
Dawn, I've got two questions here surrounding communication. First one is, how will you improve district office to teacher communication, and how can we ensure teachers feel heard and supported?
Can you pass that one down so I can read it?
Yep.
Thank you. How will you improve district office to teacher communication, and how can we ensure teachers feel heard and supported? I guess my question would be for district office to teacher communication is what kind of communication they're looking for, is what I would want to know. Nobody wants to get communication and think, oh my gosh, she's emailed us again today, or do I really have to take time out of my day to read it? I would need to know what kind of information is my staff looking for.
So was my question, because I've talked to multiple teachers who have a difficult time communicating with the district staff and a difficult time getting answers from the district office staff when they need them. So that's how can we make sure that communication is smoother, is more open, is less closed, all of that?
If people email me or call me, I will respond.
Yeah.
So if they've got a question and they feel like it's not getting answered, I want to know, because then that tells me as a leader that there's maybe some work that we need to do in our district office to improve that communication. So I guess my comment would be, If you're hearing that from staff in your building, let them know, hey, just email Dawn, and she will get back to you. I never let an email go unread in my inbox. If I don't know the answer, and I know it's gonna take me a while to come up with the answer, I will respond and say, hey, I don't have an answer for you yet, but I'm working on it. So please have them let me know, so that we can make those improvements, because that's important to me. I never want somebody's email, whether it be from staff, or parent or community member, I never want those emails or phone calls to go unheard. Does that help? Okay.
There's a second one in there, Dawn.
And then how can we ensure teachers feel heard and supported? I guess, for me, what I would like to do is I'd like to be able to get into the schools and attend staff meetings and give people the opportunity to share concerns that they have, whether it be concerns with me as a leader or concerns as a district. I think that would be the first step, is to get into the buildings and meet with staff.
There's a second one on the
Oh,
back side of that.
on the back. What is your plan for more improved communication with parents and community? Do parents and community, are they interested in, well, I guess my question would be, are you getting information from the schools? Like, do they do newsletters, updates? Yes, somewhat.
A little bit, yeah. Not a newsletter.
And what kind of communication are you interested in getting from the district? Are you interested in?
Well, I'll just say that was my question.
Okay.
I'm a parent.
Okay.
And in the previous years, we've just gotten random like letters from Brad that would just say like, here's where we're at in the district, that kind of thing, and it's been pretty quiet. I can only think of maybe one communication that's maybe come from you in the last few months. And so I think just knowing more of what's going on in the district, what's new, you know. I also happen to work for a different school district, and just within the last week, I got an email from our super who was like, hey, here's where we're doing really well right now. You know, attendance isn't great right now. Here's some ways that we could work on that kind of thing. That kind of thing. It'd be nice to have more upper level communication coming in.
Okay.
I think that's something that really lacked previously, just effective communication overall in the district.
So
And we're looking for an improvement.
So looking for like just like a monthly update?
Monthly,
I think that would be great.
couple, every other month maybe. Yeah,
Every
like it
other
doesn't
month,
need to be
once
every
a
week or
quarter?
anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just add to that? And sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be about like the schools themselves, but it could be things going on with the district, like for example, the recent change that happened with the parking lot. Didn't see that communication coming out.
We did put that out. Our communication goes out on Parent Square. So if you're not signed up to get emails on Parent Square, that might be why you don't see it. We send out a lot of communication via Parent Square. Good stuff that's happened. I know that Mr. Lake won the grant. We have some teachers over at the middle school that also got a grant, and all of that has gone out through Parent Square. So I don't know if that is part of the problem, if you're not signed up with that, if there's a better way for us to communicate that. Do you want me to share why we changed the parking back here?
That's okay, I know the history on that one. So.
Okay.
But I just asked it because I know that there's a lot of parents coming in and out, and
We did have a child, I won't say get hit, because hit can sound like it was really, really bad. We had a child that got bumped by a car as they were walking from in front of my office, right through that driveway. And we've had several close calls with cars just, you know, coming through there super duper fast. It's a blind spot. It really, really was unsafe. And that's why we made that change. So I apologize that that information didn't get to you. Maybe we need to talk about a way to get information out out to parents in a better format.
And the parents, Greg, you're right, comes email, but I also get a text, so I get both.
Yeah.
Was that to only middle school and high school parents?
Yeah, because I don't think
I didn't,
parents.
I don't remember. I don't remember. That might be why you didn't see it, because it really impacted our students that go to our alt program. And we have some people that use the event center facility. So that might be why you didn't see it.
For sports too, for like elementary school kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Okay.
Hey, I really appreciate you guys expounding on your questions, that when Dawn is reading that, when you guys explain it a little bit, because it gives her a little bit better idea of what you're thinking when you're asking that question. And it helps us too as a board to understand it more. So
Right.
Thank you for doing
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
that. So here's my question, Dawn, is what have you enjoyed so far in the Jefferson community?
What have I enjoyed? You know what? My favorite, in the Jefferson community, my favorite thing was going to the Christmas tree lighting.
It's the best.
That was my absolute favorite. I felt like it was like one of those things that you see in a Hallmark movie. I really did. I even told my significant other who was with me, I said, I feel like I'm in a Hallmark movie. It would have been perfect had it been snowing. So that has been my favorite so far. And just seeing the kids, whenever I worked at Cascade, because I was more involved in human resources the last, 8 or 9 years of my career at Cascade. I really wasn't as involved with the community as I would have liked to have been. I enjoy going to all of the events that I've gone to, all the basketball games, volleyball, football. It's been great. I even helped with a high school dance. So that was homecoming dance. That was a lot of fun.
So this one has a couple of cards that are similar, so we'll go through the first one first.
Okay.
So, are we currently in a budget crisis that we were told last year about? How much longer are we projected to be in that crisis, and what is your plan for that?
Okay.
That's a hard one, I know.
Okay.
Trying to give you easy ones and then a little more hard ones.
So I wouldn't say we're in a budget crisis. I think we are in a position where we have to watch our budget carefully. One of the things that I shared with the board back in, I think it was December or November, was our PERS cost, and that is that's our retirement for our employees. Our PERS costs are going to go up exponentially, and we are going to take a $400,000 hit to our budget beginning July 1. So that's first. Second is we are still continuing to decline in enrollment. And when our seniors graduate, and with the history of the incoming kindergartners that we have, we're getting about 40 to 45 kindergartners per year. That's going to create about a 30 student loss, which is another $300,000 hit to the budget. So as we're getting ready to plan for 25-26, we're looking at already losing $700,000 in our budget. Now, the governor has come out with a budget of $11.36 billion. That, just on the back of the napkin numbers, that will give the district about $830,000 more than what we got last year. So that pretty much is a wash for what we're going to lose. Now, if the legislature approves more than $11.36 billion in budget, that's more money for us. Every $100 million, I believe, is about $75,000 increase to our budget. So, not in a budget crisis, but when we're developing our budget, there are some things that we are going to have to look at, and we're going to have to budget very, very carefully. And how much longer are we projected to be in that crisis? That is a good question, and I do not have an answer to that question. I would say as long as we are continuing to see a decline in enrollment, we're going to continue to be in the spot that we're in, where we have to really pay attention to what we're spending our money on.
And then this question goes with it. So how have you navigated budget challenges in the past, and how can that support us in the future?
Well, I did, being in education for such a very long time, I have seen some of the worst budget challenges. Back in 2010, 2011, we had to furlough days in the district, and we had to do that for a couple of years in a row. We also had to lay off staff. When you're talking about losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in budget, really the only place that you can cut and get back that much money is by cutting staff. So, those are some very extreme things that help navigate through budget challenges. Other things would be cutting back on supply budgets that our schools get. We, in the past, have said, okay, we're going to release, maybe 50% of your supply budget at the beginning of the school year, and then depending on how numbers look, during the school year, we might release another 20% of your supply budget. So controlling the amount of funds that we release to the buildings is another way that you can help with budget challenges. And how can that support us in the future? I think just having that background knowledge of how, the previous school district that I was in, how we navigated through those budget challenges will help us. I also have a wonderful business manager and accounts payable person to help with that process. So I'm also going to lean on my administrative team and directors as, if we have to make budget cuts, what are those going to look like?
Okay, I've got kind of another hard one here, and there's actually 4 separate questions on enrollment, so they're all kind of the same.
Okay.
What is one major difference that you are doing that the previous superintendent was not able to achieve to bring more students enrollment and continue to retain students that are here? They're all pretty much the same.
And I don't know that I can answer that question. Because, I've only been in this position since July 1, not really had an opportunity to be able to show the community and the staff what I can do as a leader for your district. This is my year to really look at the district as a whole and what your processes and procedures are, where our holes are, what are things that we're doing well, what are the things that we need to change to do differently. There's some work that I believe that needs to be done so that as a staff we are able to handle the types of behaviors that we're seeing coming into our school. They're very difficult, and I'm hearing that we need some support for our staff in those areas, and doesn't necessarily mean extra people, maybe it means extra training, but if we can get a handle on how we address those types of situations and how we work with students and families, then maybe we can work on bringing students in. I will tell you that the decline in kindergarten enrollment is not just a Jefferson thing, that is an across the state thing. Superintendents across the state are seeing lower numbers of kids coming into kindergarten as a whole.
So the other 3 were really specific about enrollment. So
Okay,
we'll just
let's
let you-
see.
You might have already just answered that.
How do you intend to bring our students back to our district and or keep them? I think if you have a district where you're losing kids and you find out why you're losing kids. Making changes to how you're doing things will help bring kids back. You also have to have something in your district that parents want for their kids. What is it that Jefferson offers that they can't get from an online school or a charter school? What are the things that we do really well, and how do we share that information with the community so that they know, hey, you know what, Jefferson is a great place, I want to send my kids there. I know they've got this program, this program, this program. I'm really seeing the scores increase. I'm really seeing just some great things happening at the school. I think those are all things that help to bring students back into your district. You have to have that thing that you're doing well, and I don't know that we have that yet. What is your vision for addressing the district's low attendance and declining enrollment? And same here, addressing district's challenges with low attendance and declining enrollment. I do know that with regard to attendance, I know that the high school is working. They've got a team that they developed called 9GOT, and it's ninth graders on track. We know that students that are successful in ninth grade that have earned a certain amount of credits by the time they get into or in ninth grade, that they are more apt to graduate. And so Laura has been working on getting that team going, and so that will be a good piece. We've also talked as an administrative team about our attendance, and one of the things that we asked, we have a survey that we have put out at different events. Do we have any of those survey thingies here? We probably didn't. But it's a survey, and it's asking our community about what we can do to help improve attendance. So I'll work with the administrators on getting that survey out, and if you haven't taken that survey yet, I know that it was available at the concerts at the elementary school, at the middle school. It's been out at the different basketball games. Just a little QR code, I think have 4 or 5 different questions, and we'll use that information to guide us as we're working on our next planning for our student investment account money, our integrated guidance plan that's due at the end of April. So I do know that attendance is one of the areas that we have asked about, because we are all concerned about student attendance and what we can do to improve that. Oh, thank you.
What's your experience working with students with disabilities and their families?
Other than, so I've never taught in a special education classroom, other than being a building principal and working with families in that capacity, being in classrooms, special education classrooms, and working with families in that manner, being a teacher. Of course, that was a very, very long time ago, and it was very, very different than it is now. But being a teacher and working with students and their families, that would be my experience. Participating in IEP meetings as a building administrator or district level administrator. I work very closely with Katrina, who's our Director of Special Services. I also worked very closely with the Director of Special Services whenever I was in Cascade. So familiar with the different types of special education programs, the different types of needs that students have, and what we need to be providing to our students. Somewhat familiar around special ed law. I know enough to be a little dangerous, but I really rely heavily on my special ed director to when we get into the weeds of that sort of thing.
We call the attorneys, so we're good on the law.
That's correct. We have a direct line to attorneys for questions. You know, if I don't know the answer to something, I'm going to find out the answer. And I would say in working with families, whether they be special education, families that have students with special needs, or students that don't have special needs, I think the important part is communicating and just keeping those lines of communication open.
Dawn, question that I have next for you is what steps will you take to increase student engagement, particularly in extracurricular activities like sports?
Oh, goodness. I think continuing to offer sports that our kids are interested in, and working with our athletic director to make sure that we're building a sports program that our kids are interested in, and that we're hiring coaches that are good for our kids. You know, it's when you're building an athletic program, it's not always about winning. It's about making sure that kids are enjoying the sport, and that we're teaching them skills, that we're teaching them how to work together as a team. So it's important that we have staff that can do that. Yeah, in order to get kids to be on teams, they need to be winning teams, but they got to start somewhere. And I think being there to support the teams as a superintendent is important as well.
Can I just add a little bit, or?
Sure.
Our kids do sports, and one of the biggest things here is the equipment. You guys all know the football field is pretty much rendered useless when it comes to the track.
Yep.
And we've been told not to utilize that for high school meets and stuff like that. And I know that there's a project on the side, but that takes time and that takes a lot of money.
It does.
Right, and you just mentioned we're gonna be in a 700,000 shortfall.
Right.
So how do you balance that between that? And I think that's also leads to those key pieces of enrollment, right? For some of these kids, that they really thrive on sports, or the community thrives on sports, is if I'm not gonna see the sports here, I might as well just go somewhere where I am gonna see the sport.
Right.
Not that I'm saying my kid's gonna, grow up to be an NBA all-star, but if they really enjoy playing baseball or football or track,
Right.
and we stop kind of offering that sort of kind of here, then they only got one place to do, and that's to do it outside of here. So
Well,
how do you make sure we bring that back?
Right, and that's the other piece, when you're looking at, if you're having to make budget cuts, it's important that as we're making decisions about if we do have to make budget cuts, what's gonna go and what's gonna stay, we have to look at what's keeping our kids here in Jefferson. Because it might be, you don't wanna say, well, we're gonna cut athletics, because athletics is what keeps a lot of our kids in school. Our extracurricular, not even extracurricular, but things like band and choir and art, those are things that keep a lot of kids in school, and so those are all things that we have to consider when we're making budget cuts. Yeah, our track is not in good shape. I know that Doug Noggle he's got a committee, and they're gonna be doing some work sessions with the board, and talking about, what is it that we can do as a district, as a community, to help make improvements to that facility. I don't know if that answers your question, but
I'm just shining some light on that.
Sure.
I know it's hard to kind of put a pinpoint and answer to it, but we constantly see when there's a budget cut, one of the first things to go is extracurricular activities or sports, or the director of sports, or whatever it may be related to the non-educational perspectives.
Right, and those are important considerations. No, athletics is not why we're here. We're here to educate kids, but if we don't have those things to offer our kids, we're not gonna have kids here to educate. So, those are all things that have to be considered when we're talking about budget deficits and what we're gonna cut and what we're gonna lose, and so. Mhm.
Okay, Don, so this question kind of ties a little bit in with what you were talking about, and the question that he asked about, about the track. So considering the number of repairs needed in our school and on how our, and our facilities, how would you go about trying to pass a bond measure to meet the current needs?
Well, I will tell you, as a superintendent, I cannot like say you need to pass a bond. I can give you factual information regarding the bond. That has to come from the board, and supporting the board in their efforts if they were to do that. I am hopeful that the legislature is going to be bringing, there's talk about the legislature being able to help districts that struggle with passing bonds. I know that the last time a bond was passed here, it didn't go well. And so when that happens, it's always a struggle to get the next bond passed. And a lot of smaller rural districts face that as well. I guess I would say, for me as a superintendent, is if the board wanted to pursue going out for a bond, then, you know, I would want to be able to support that. So.
So Dawn, I know we talked about the track and field, but this question is a little expanded on that.
Okay.
What are some plans to update facilities along with track and field? I know.
Money, 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 and more money. I did have our maintenance director bring to me, and he shared with the board an updated kind of facilities plan. What are the things that we need to have done in the district, and having a plan such as that can help guide decisions that we make in the budget. If we know that, hey, this is an area that, you know, we need to start making some improvements on, then we can start saying, okay, we need to make sure that we have X amount of dollars put into our budget so that we can start, you know, keeping up with the things that need to be done in our facilities. So I think having a plan, knowing what needs to be done and approximately what those costs would be, is helpful as we begin the budget planning process.
Okay. What do you see as the biggest area to improve in our district?
Biggest area to improve. I'd say there's lots of little areas that I want to improve on. I would say making sure that our school district is one where kids feel safe and kids feel connected, and kids want to come to school is probably the area where I would want to focus the most on. We want kids here at school. We want to improve upon their attendance. We want them to feel valued. We want them to, like I said, feel safe about coming to school. I think that's probably the biggest area, or the most important area for me.
I'll talk about funding. And this one isn't particularly about sports. I guess it could mean anything, but with the rural school funding not being reinstated, how do you see that affecting our funding of programs?
I would have to look, because I don't know how much we receive from rural school funding, so I would have to look and see what kind of impact that makes on our budget before I can't really give an answer to that unless I know how much we get from that and what impact that would be on our budget.
We'll set that one aside, just for follow-up.
Okay, I can certainly follow up on that one.
Dawn, question surrounds the Health Resource Center.
Mm-hmm.
And the direct question is it being used?
We have a volunteer that comes in a couple times a week, once a week, and opens up the Health Resource Center for our students and families who need it. That's our community kind of closet where they can get food and hygiene, or not food, clothing and hygiene products. As far as the other pieces, I know we have a dental room, we have a medical facility, and those have not been used. Have had conversations and have, early on in the school year, worked with Doug, who was working with Western University? Yep, Western University in Lebanon. And so there's a chance that our medical room could be used for physicals, for sports physicals for our students. We've tried, I wouldn't say we, prior to me getting here, there was conversation with a couple of different places around getting somebody that could come out here on a regular basis and offer, be in the medical room, and both of those have fallen through. The last recent one was Samaritan Health. That happened whenever I first started here, and they actually disbanded their program, their outreach programs, and so they weren't even, it wasn't something that they were even able to come out and do anymore. So that is a challenge, and honestly, has been kind of on my back burner of things since taking over in July. But something that I would like to work on maybe next year.
Okay, Dawn. So what do you plan to do to support the elementary teachers struggling with significant behavior impacting learning and morale?
That is a concern. I will tell you one of the things that we recently did that I was able to find funding for. We were able to bring back our EGC classroom at the elementary level, and that will help our students who have some very severe behaviors. Now, this is a classroom where you can't have, more than probably 3 or 4 kids in it at a time, because you don't want kids that have significant behavioral issues. You don't want a class of 20 or even a class of 10, but able to use some money from our student investment account to bring back that EGC teacher. Also looking at trying to get some more support.
What does EGC mean?
Sorry. Yep, you're right. Emotional Growth Center for our students. And also was able to bring back an instructional assistant to work in the library, who's been helping out in the classrooms until we can get a substitute instructional assistant for the time being. Really going forward, it's going to be looking at the staff that we have in that building and how we're best able to support the students that we have in that building. That will be one of the things that we do whenever we're going through the budget process. I am in the process of getting another instructional assistant in that building to help us out at least through the end of the school year. The other piece that goes along with that is making sure that our staff are trained in understanding and learning how to deal with the types of behaviors that we're seeing in the classrooms. So there's some opportunity for some training through special education. It's actually it's our restraint training, but it's not all around restraining kids. It's really about how to keep kids from getting in a position where they have to be restrained, and the skills that we can use as an educator to help de-escalate their behaviors. So that training will be helpful to our staff. Also gave an opportunity to our staff to participate in a book study through the ESD. It's on trauma-informed care. And so I've had a few staff members pick that up. So hopefully that will help them also get some skills that they need in order to help deal with the kids that we have coming into our schools. It's different than it used to be whenever I was in a building. It's much more difficult now. So I think also as we are working on writing our integrated guidance plan and looking at how we're spending our student investment account monies, looking at what kinds of training and professional development we need for our staff as a whole.
Can I add a question to that? With the significant behaviors happening, what is right now the rate of restraints and seclusions happening? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. We do a report every year to the state of Oregon. I don't know when those reports are due. Do you remember when those reports are due?
Yeah, I do have the reports at the end of every year, and just so you all know, we don't have a seclusion room in Jefferson, so that number is 0. It's been 0 year after year. Restraints is something that we try incredibly hard not to do. There's maybe been 2 in the entire school year, and those are for students experiencing significant disability. The only time that we're gonna employ a restraint is if it's a safety concern. So we're talking things about like running out in parking lots, nothing in classrooms.
Thank you, Katrina.
You're welcome.
How do you prioritize what needs to be done first and move the district forward in a positive way?
Well, that one was really hard for me because whenever I took this position over, I had no idea the number of reports that I was going to be required to complete by the end of October for the Department of Education. And just the number of things that really needed to be addressed and taken care of. So I made a list in my office. I have a big 5x8 glass board in my office. It's clear now because I moved the list somewhere else, but that was the way that I prioritized, is I just listed every single report that had to be done, everything that I'm like, this needs to be done, we need a process for this, we need a procedure for this, and gave myself dates. And that's how I prioritize, because when you look at everything that you have to do, everything's a priority. But there are some things that you're like, well, it's a priority, but this takes priority over this priority. Now what I have is I have a monthly checklist of things that either have to be done and the dates that they have to be done, or the things that I know as a district, yeah, we should really have this process, or we should have this procedure in place, and when I want to have that process or procedure done. So of course the things that are most important and the most urgent are going to take precedence over the projects that I want to have done. But it really is what's most pressing and what needs to be taken care of now in order for either teachers to teach, students to learn, or for us to get money from ODE. Those are kind of the way that I prioritize how things need to get done.
Okay, what
what district-wide professional development would you like to implement in order to help students be more successful?
I would like to see the district, I would like to see our teachers learn more about how trauma impacts our students and how, as teachers, we can help our students with that trauma. A lot of things that we see in the classroom, a lot of behaviors that we see in the classroom, is a student's way of communicating. And I think some of our staff don't have the training that they need in order to deal with that type of communication. So I would like to see us focus on that. I would also like to see us focus on kind of how we're instructing our students in the classroom. What are the best instructional practices that we should be doing in the classroom so that all of our students can be successful.
How are you going to direct and lead staff to create college-ready kids? What does the rigor look like, especially for students at or above grade level?
That's a tough one to answer right off the top of my head. I think making sure that at the high school level that we have advanced classes for students. Now we're a small district, so the type of advanced and the number of advanced classes that we're able to offer is going to be small. But I think making sure that we have those, making sure that if we have opportunities for our students to earn college credit in the classes that they take would be important. I think, and this kind of goes back to instructional strategies and how teachers teach in the classroom, is just making sure that as we're teaching that we are meeting every student's needs. Whether it's we're providing interventions for the student that has some gaps or holes in their knowledge, or we're providing some additional type of education and instruction to students that are above their grade level, giving them the opportunities to get that instruction.
Hi, just to follow up, and maybe this is a principal and superintendent question. I'm still like elementary working into middle school. Do we have advanced classes or honors classes in like core subjects in this district?
Yes, we have college level classes. We work with Western Oregon University and we work with Chemeketa Community College. So we have advanced math, we have advanced language arts. We're offering psychology this year, advanced sciences, communications. We actually have a wide variety for such a small school.
Okay. And do we have that at the middle school level or no?
We do have middle schoolers who take high school classes because they are advanced.
Okay.
And, so we have 8th graders. I think we have 6 to 8 8th graders that are coming up to take Algebra 1 or geometry.
Okay.
Or advanced band.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Laura. See, we work as a team.
Can I piggyback on that too? So when those students are able to go or to do these advanced classes, are they all on campus? Do they have to go off of campus? Is it online? What does that look like?
For the high school students?
Yeah.
Oh, we offer them. So our teachers are working with either Western Oregon, Willamette Cronus, or Chemeketa, and follow the syllabi at those colleges. And it's a really good deal because it's under $50 and they get college credits and there's no other way to get out of it.
That's awesome.
It's really
Dawn. Two-part question. How are you going to lead this district to increase testing scores? And how are you going to recruit and retain highly qualified teachers?
Gosh, I told you, they're all great questions.
They're really good questions. My goodness. So, I'll address testing scores first. State assessments are important. However, it is a snapshot in time. And when you're looking at testing scores, like whenever the state puts out their report cards for the district, they're comparing last year's students to this year's students, which really isn't a comparison at all, because they're two different groups of kids. The other piece with test scores is that the state allows opt-out, which means that if a parent doesn't want their child to take the state assessment test, they're not required to take the state assessment test. And oftentimes what we find is that the students that would really boost our scores are the ones that are not taking the state assessment. So it's really hard to boost our scores when, and that's okay, you have that right, that's completely okay. When the state allows, parents to do that, that impacts our test scores. What I would like to focus on, and what a lot of smaller districts focus on, are the tests that we do within each of our schools. For instance, I know at the elementary level, they use Acadians to measure our students' reading growth. They benchmark them 3 times a year. They do progress monitoring. For me, I don't know how our board feels about it, but for me, that is a better, more accurate picture of how our students are growing and learning than a one-time state assessment test. So I would like to see us focus on, as a district, talking about the growth that our students are experiencing with the tests that we're using on a regular basis than a one-time state assessment test. And we need to get that message across to our families. Because you guys are used to saying, okay, well, state assessment scores came out. Oh my gosh, look at, this horrible percentage of students that met or exceeded. What you're not seeing is the growth that we see in the schools. And I think that's important for us to be able to showcase as a district. And
is there a way for us to get more of those, like we see our students' scores on Acadians, right, but can we see maybe, hey, the district's, this grade level scores improved by this much? I think that would be helpful as parents.
One of the things that I've talked to my administrators about is sharing that information with our board, so that they're not just looking at the state assessment scores, that they're looking at, like I said, the Acadian scores and the growth that we're seeing throughout the school year for all of our students. It would be great and possibly a goal of mine to come out with some sort of, I don't want to say report card because that's not the right, but some sort of a report that we would be able to share with parents on a regular basis around growth of our students.
So can I just make a comment real quick before you move on? So I get that the state test is a point in time, and I really do enjoy the Acadians, what's going on there. However, when parents or adults want to move somewhere, what's the first thing we look at? Oh, I wonder how the school is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, do I want to put my school there? Do I want to put my student in that school?
Mm-hmm.
And what drives those, which is state scores.
Right.
So unfortunately, it's a win-lose situation where we're saying, well, we know it's a point in time, and it's, we kind of state it as it's important but not that important. But the reality is that's how we're going to get more enrollment in here. And if we don't do good, we'll continue to look bad, and we continue to lose maybe people that want to move in, from the outside in type of deal.
Unless as a district, we put that type of information, the school level information in front of, like we're shouting it from the rooftops, you know, that this is how we're doing. And my hope would be that anybody that's, you know, wanting to bring their child into Jefferson School District, that they are taking the time to look at more than just what's on those report cards that the state puts out, that they're getting into the district website, that they're looking at what our schools are doing, what our kids are doing, what we have to offer, those types of things. And if need be, having conversations with me or the building principal about, you know, hey, I noticed that your reading scores are at duh. Well, if the principal can say, well, that is true, this is a state assessment score, here's how we're doing as a school in these areas. So I think figuring out a way to showcase that growth in our individual schools would be important in, you know, getting families to want to live in Jefferson, bring their kids to Jefferson, be a part of the Jefferson School District. The other piece of how are you going to recruit and retain highly qualified teachers, it's all about money, man. Unless, I won't say that. It's not always about money, because it's about the people that you work with too. And I think in getting people to want to come here and work here, it's that word of mouth. Hey, you know what? Jefferson's a great place to work. Their staff is really supported. They've got, you know, XYZ available. May not be able to pay as much as the district next to us, but here's what you get instead. You get smaller class sizes, which is always a bonus. You know, get better support. I mean, those are all qualities that you can't really put a price tag on. So I think creating the environment where staff want to stay, and it's that word of mouth. I remember not too awfully long ago that if you said you worked in Cascade, it was like, you work at Cascade, you know, and you turn your head. Well, that's not the case anymore. And it's really because of the relationships that people create and develop with each other, and the relationships that they create and develop with the students. It really is, I mean, that's like number one is relationships. Building, maintaining, creating those relationships with staff, students, and your community members. And that's what keeps people here. Money is, I don't know, you could make, you know, way more money working in other school districts, but do you get the same type of relationships that you have in those school districts that you would get by working here in Jefferson? So I think it's about creating and maintaining those relationships with our staff, students, and community.
I noticed you didn't say a great board.
No.
Oh, and board. That's always important too.
So Don, you've answered a lot of hard questions, but this is probably about the hardest one I've ever seen. It says, how do you as superintendent of Jefferson create world peace and balance the national budget?
You know, that's a pretty tough question, and I don't have the answer to that question.
That's not the question.
I know.
This kind of goes along with what you were answering on your last question. And the question is, how do you plan to support teachers in improving state test scores while addressing any concerns about teachers' performance and discipline?
Man,
That's a tough one.
that is a tough one.
That's why we gave it to Terry.
My other one was easier.
That is
He has
a tough
that
one.
finesse.
So, how do you support addressing any concerns about teacher performance and discipline? That is a difficult one to answer. what I will tell you, and this is what I have told many people that I've worked with on, you know, they've had to go on plans of assistance, or we've had conversations about having to discipline. My goal in putting someone on a plan of assistance or working with someone who has performance or discipline issues is to make them better. I don't ever want anyone to think that because we're putting them on a plan of assistance or because we have a conversation, because they're disciplined, that I'm wanting to boot them out the door. My goal is to make them a better teacher, educator, instructor, whatever job it is that they're doing. What can we do to support you to make you better? Are there some cases where it doesn't matter what we do and we're gonna have to let that person go? Yeah, there are. But I would say in all of my years of having to do plans of assistance and working with teachers, I think I could probably count on one hand. I think there's probably maybe 3 people that weren't successful on a plan of assistance. And it's because that teacher wanted it. They wanted to stay. They understood what was at stake. They understood that we were there to offer them support and guidance and help. And there was an administrator or a supervisor or a director, whatever the case may be, that was willing to put in the work to help that person be successful. You know, even, I will say this, as someone who had to issue discipline to staff members, even when we would walk away from the table and that person was issued discipline, I always got a thank you at the end, because I did it in such a way that it still valued them as who they were. They were still important. I still cared. Even if I had to issue discipline, they knew that I cared. They knew that they had made a mistake and that they needed to do better. I don't know if that answers the question. I feel like I just kind of went off on a tangent. But I think if we are going about it in that way, and that they know that we care about them, that we're compassionate. Going back to my values, we're compassionate, we're empathetic, we want to work with them, we want to collaborate with them, we want to work with them as a team. I think those are all things that can help with that relationship building. It all goes back to relationships, no matter what. When someone can walk away from your office after they've gotten a warning letter and say thank you, I appreciate you, that's important to me.
So, those types of conversations are always the most difficult to start, the most difficult to even want to engage in. I know as a manager, director, that's one of my least favorite things to do, but sometimes we just have to do it. And it really is addressing, the question is really trying to address, are we wanting to make sure that that everybody is held to accountability, and really, like you were mentioning, fostering, you know, the excellence in academics. So are we setting their standards high enough that if there is an issue, we're addressing those issues, and we're willing to have those hard conversations. They're not easy by any means.
Right.
And as much as we want them to transition and make it a better place for them and get them engaged and get them the professional development that's to help them, sometimes it's hard to just get there with some folks. Whether there's been a systemic history of that, you know, and nobody's willing to address it, is really where that question is at. Are we willing to address it and make them accountable?
Do you want to St. Helens?
I am, and I always have been. I hate having those conversations. It makes me sick to my stomach to have those conversations, but they're conversations that have to be had. I would hope, and I think I've seen through the conversations that I've had with my administrators and directors, that I've helped them already this year through some of those processes. and help them understand the importance of having those difficult conversations and walking kind of side by side with them on here's some suggestions. Here's how I would address this situation, and here's what you need to do. Come back to me, talk to me about it. Okay, that didn't work, then now we're going to do this. So I really see me as being someone to help guide my administrators and directors in that process and having those hard conversations. It's hard if you've not been one to do it and you've avoided it, or you've been told not to. It's hard to have those conversations, but I'm hopeful that my administrators feel like they can come to me and I can help guide them through that process, and that we're being compassionate when we're having those conversations with people. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just want to call out, I know we're at 8 o'clock. I want to make sure we have time for open Q&A. We do have 7 questions left to give you guys kind of an idea where we're at. I appreciate your guys' patience, and Dawn, thank you for staying and doing all this. So my question is, since joining Jefferson, what systems have already been set that is still working positively that you would like to keep?
Systems, oh goodness. What systems have already been set that is still working positively that you would already like to keep? I think that I've set up a good system of people feeling like they are, that I have an open door. I mean, if you, and this is literally, if you walk in the district office, my door is always open. And I think at least the people in my office and my administrators, and I think even my board members are finding that if you have a question or if you have a concern, come see me, come talk to me. I don't ever want people to feel like they can't come to me for questions. So I feel like that's a good system that I've put in place, is that, yeah, if my door's open, please come in and ask away. Or, you know, let's sit down and just have a chat if you want to. So I would say that system is one that I feel like that I've put in place, that I've always operated that way and want to continue operating that way. That's the only one that comes to the top of my head. I think that's been a positive thing for the people in our office for sure. And I think our administrators and directors feel that way too. At least I hope so.
We might be able to skip this question. I'll see what everybody thinks. It says, because I think you pretty much covered this in your opening. What are the core values that define your work, and how do they affect the way you do your job as an administrator? I kind of think you covered that pretty well.
Is everyone okay with that one?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great.
What is your recommendation to a school committee member who receives a complaint from a parent regarding a school-related matter?
School committee member.
Could you say the question again? I didn't hear.
What is your recommendation to a school committee member who receives a complaint from a parent regarding a school-related matter? I would ask, if I were getting that complaint, I would ask that person, have you talked to the teacher? And if they said, yeah, I've talked to the teacher and it's still a concern or it's still happening, have you talked to the building principal? No, I haven't done that. That would be your next place to go, is to go to the building principal and work with your building principal on that issue. If they've gone to the building principal and they feel like it still hasn't been addressed, then their next step would be talk to the superintendent and make sure that it gets addressed. We do have a complaint process, and it's on our webpage. You know, I like to try and have those solved at the lowest level possible. So that would be my suggestion is to direct them to first, you know, the classroom teacher or the employee that they're complaining about, then to the building principal, then to the superintendent. And then if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, then they can go to the board.
Two-part. When you fill vacancies, Dawn, what are some of the things you consider in making a hire? How much autonomy should school administrators have in hiring the people they want?
Unless it is an administrative or a director position, I believe that the building administrator or the director should have full autonomy in hiring the people that are going to fit best within their building. They know their building better than anyone else. They know the type of person that they're looking for. They know the qualities that they're looking for. And that's my belief. They're an administrator. They were hired to administrate in their building and manage and operate their building and oversee their staff. They're the ones that are going to be the best ones to make that decision as far as who they hire in their building. You know, when you're talking about, when you ask what are some of the things that you consider in making a hire, a lot of times it's about fit and whether their philosophy, how they treat people, their experiences, whether that is going to be a fit with whatever building or department that they're going to be working in. So I can't really say that there's a specific thing that I look for whenever I'm hiring people. I always listen for that care and compassion whenever I'm hiring people because I think that's important. But for other administrators, they may have other qualities that they're looking for. But bottom line, wherever that person is going to be working, that administrator or director is the one that needs to have the autonomy to hire who they think is going to be the best fit. I'm not in their building every day. I'm not going to work with them every day. They know their staff better than I do.
Okay, next question. Do you know that elementary school has brown water?
No.
That's the question.
I do
I
not.
didn't make that one up.
You did not know that the elementary school has brown water.
Kimberly, have you heard that?
You might find it in the toilets if they haven't been flushed for a while. If faucets haven't been ran for a while, you might have some discoloration. Our pipes are very old. I actually drink the water out of the faucet, not filtered from the water filter. Our water is city water. There might be some sinks that maybe haven't been ran for a while, and if you turn them on and let them run, the color will come back differently.
I know 50 years ago when I went there, it was brown water.
Well, I mean, I fill up my cup and I have clear water in my cup, so, but I do know if water sits in our pipes for a while and you haven't ran or flushed that water, we have old pipes. Our building is very old. Parts of our building are, not all of our building is old. We have a very new building at one end.
Several years ago, we did a lead test in there to figure out how many of them were safe to drink out. And then we as a district fixed the problems that were there, so. I didn't know if you knew about that, Dawn.
I did not know about that. We do lead testing every 7 years. And I want to say we're due in 2027 for lead testing again. I think that's the date. So.
Why were you in elementary school when you were 20?
Yeah, I think, we think, maybe it was 60 years.
Oh my gosh.
Long time ago.
Digressed. All right, two more.
Okay, two
we're
more.
getting there.
We can do it.
We can do that.
Power through.
I know. So how will you work with parents, staff, and community to rebuild trust and strengthen relationships with the district?
I think that all goes back to what I presented before. I stand on my values. Every decision that I make is based on those values. It takes time to build trust. It takes time to build those relationships. But I'm hoping that over time, that we can build trust and that you will see as a community, as staff members, that I truly do stand behind the values that I talked about tonight. Those are important to me. And building relationships are important to me. And so I think over time, incorporating those values in everything that we do as a district and building those relationships with people, that will help to rebuild that trust. Open, honest communication. I think the board will tell you that I've been open and honest with them, and I don't have anything to hide. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to be honest, good, bad, or otherwise.
Absolutely, we will say that. So speaking of your values, what is one of your values that you will not waver on when it comes to making sure you can achieve success here at Jefferson?
Integrity, number one. It is extremely important to me that I do the right thing, and it bothers me. I mean, it bothers me to the core when my integrity is questioned, because I don't ever make a decision where it's not in the best interest of those that are involved. I feel like I'm an honest person. So yeah, I would say integrity, number one.
Very good. Thank you, that was it. That was the
Yay!
last one.
So I just want to make a quick announcement. So we are giving time for open Q&A. However, Jen is going to be passing out some survey QR codes and some survey paper questions if you guys don't want to do the QR codes. What I am requesting is I think I can speak for the entire board that we care what you guys think. We appreciate you guys coming. We appreciate you guys coming up with the questions. We need your feedback as we make a decision. So I cannot stress enough how important this survey is. We are going to be looking at every single response.
Is this anonymous?
It is. It is completely anonymous. I don't want to know who sent what. I just want to see what you guys think. So please fill this out. It's not like when they hand you one at a grocery store and you throw it in your purse and you forget about it. We want to know what you think. So before you guys leave, because I know everyone's dying to get out of here, I wanted to announce this. Please make sure and fill out the survey.
I'd also like to plug our board meetings. If you haven't been to a board meeting in a while, they're vastly different than what they were. It's very much this format. It's not, you get 3 minutes and thank you, and you get feedback, and it's a great opportunity because a lot of times Dawn doesn't know the answer, and just like we had here tonight, a lot of the staff are there that do have the answer. You'll have it that night. If it's in the room, you'll have it that night, and then if not, I'm confident that she'll either reply directly back to you or get back to you real soon in some other way. So they're more fun to me now. It's conversations with the board, conversations with the superintendent. So
our administrators and our superintendent have been presenting monthly to fantastic reports, and they're in there and they talk about it. Some of you said that you don't always know what's going on in the district. Even if you watched that part of it, it gives you a lot of great information. I appreciate getting them every month because there's things I'm not seeing. So just something for you guys to consider. It's a great way to get it. They're all recorded, they're all online. So if you can't make the meeting, you can watch it later or listen to it later. It's a lot of great information. All right, with that, we can go to open Q&A. I guess, does anyone want to go first? Or does anyone have any questions?
Well, I
after
do,
that?
actually, I forgot to put it on the thing. Have you considered it a cell phone ban?
So,
I highly recommend it, I will say.
so I will tell you that the junior high and high school have a cell phone policy in place, where the kids are not allowed to have their cell phones out, except at high school. They can have them out at lunch and during passing period. And that seems to be working okay.
Yes.
And
We don't make everybody happy, but, for the most part, we've seen a drop in how many cell phones were confiscated. We've had some good feedback. Again, not everybody's happy, but we've had some good feedback about being able just to focus and not have to worry about it. And so they can't have it on their person. It needs to be in a backpack or in a binder or during class time.
Is there a reason that it's not district-wide and it's building by building?
elementary, they don't have any issues with cell phones.
Although we have gotten some Christmas presents.
Oh, okay.
Very young ages too, it's kind of interesting.
So, and I will say they're pretty strict at the high school with that, cause my son got his taken and it was just in his pants and he was like, I forgot. I'm like, well, you know, that's how, so yeah, they pay attention.
Yeah.
So it's not a district thing, it's a building by building is the answer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I know that the middle school and high school kind of work together.
The difference is that middle school, it's away all day long and they don't have it during lunch.
Okay.
At the high school, we've made it available to our students at lunch for a variety of reasons. But if we decided to go a different way, then obviously.
Well, and I believe that the legislature is talking about a cell phone ban, so it may not even be something that, we have the option of as a district building by building. I'm sure that if at the elementary school cell phones are an issue, then Ms. Rhodes is going to be addressing that with her staff and figuring out, okay, there's, what does that look like at the elementary school, so.
Anyone else have any questions?
I have a question. I'm a 6.5-year new resident to the community here. You were building a brand new middle school when I moved into the neighborhood, and a brand new library. I mean, I was impressed with this community, and I get more and more impressed every year I live here. I was born and raised in Salem. I was part of the Jarvis School District for 23 years. I was their superintendent until 2002, and I haven't been in a school since 2002.
Wow. Well, welcome.
I was just wondering, the group here, what percent are employees and what percent are parents?
Can we get a raise of hands for staff members? Right, raise of hands for parents.
And there were 2 more.
Yep.
That's okay. So you're doing a pretty good job. It's not easy. I don't know what I would do this day and age in public education. You've got your hands full. When I left in 2002, we were going through a pretty serious, I had a choice to work for a testing company making the same amount of money I was making at Jarvis.
State testing or?
It was a computer adaptive test, Northwest Evaluation Association. Better than the state test, a lot better, but we couldn't convince the public of that. But we were in 18 states when I joined in 2002, and when I left in 2007, we were in 49 states. We were busy enrolling school districts around the country. But we were fighting the budget problem with the tech bubble burst, and we didn't have any money. I was laying off staff, closing down programs, and it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun, and so that job was looked pretty good in 2002.
Right.
So I don't envy you what you're going through. But you need to get a lot of parents involved. That's what I was doing before we merged all the schools together. We had a pretty nice little elementary district back before the 1992 mergers of all the school districts. I think that's the important part. There's a lot going on in this community, and if you could just harness that and get all these groups working together, I think you're gonna solve all your problems.
Yeah.
So I encourage what you're doing tonight. I encourage surveys.
Thank you.
And I encourage an involved superintendent. Thanks for letting me show up tonight.
No, thank you for coming.
It's been a while since I've been in a school.
Yeah. And I just want to say to you guys, thank you for you guys had some great questions tonight. They were hard. I didn't see any softball questions. I asked you guys for some softball questions. But thank you too for the feedback on communicating better with the community. That's certainly something that I will work on. And I just appreciate all of you guys taking your time to be out here this evening.
Did we have one more?
We had one more question.
Oh.
Well, you are very brave for doing this because it's hot seat.
Yeah.
I was curious with a nod to the future, is there any plans for AI integration, classes, technology, anything like that to prepare students, maybe attract them more?
That's a hard one too.
We had
That's
that
a-
at a board meeting.
We had our tech director present on some AI. It's so new. I know that there's a policy that we just got on AI on how as a district we would be utilizing AI. I don't think it's not going away, but I think it is all in how we utilize it and how we teach our students and we teach our staff how to utilize it in a manner that continues to allow them to learn and not just copy something from the internet. I think that's what people are afraid of. You know, they're not gonna write their own papers anymore. They're gonna use AI to write their own papers. There's a lot of ways that you can implement and use AI in your day-to-day lesson planning for teachers that would cut the amount of time it takes to lesson plan tremendously by them using AI. And there's nothing wrong with them being able to do that. It's also about making sure that if you're using AI, that the information that you're using is correct. Because that's another piece that people are running into is while AI can spit out all this information, it's not necessarily correct. So I think working within that policy, the policy is going to be set by the board, and so we'll have to wait and see what that policy looks like.
We'd love some input.
You took the words right out of my mouth. If there's comments out there with regards to AI and how the community feels that the school district should be approaching AI and the exposure to the kids and at what level and how quick, we would love to hear that. I will convey to you all that I am skeptical. There's a lot of potential dangers.
Calculators and math, okay?
Pardon me?
Calculators and math, okay?
Yeah, calculators and math, okay. Yeah, so, but, any concerns that you all have with regards to the direction that the board's going in curriculum and technology and things of that sort. I piggyback on Fred, come to our school board meetings, let us know your thoughts. And because, we're your voice. You put us in these seats to take care of your family, your children, and they're a great investment. It's an honor to sit in this seat, to be honest with you. And so, somebody else had a question there.
I was just gonna say, with technology in general, we do have the partnership with Willamette Career Academy, and they have the 2-year program there that kids can go to and be part of and get their certificate through that.
Okay, through what, I was there for a meeting for Chamber of Commerce. It was information technology? I saw IT services and stuff, but not AI or anything.
I don't know if it was necessarily about AI. My son just graduated from Cascade and he did the program through Cascade. And there was some AI stuff involved in it.
Cool.
But it was like, you know, you can learn to do all these different kinds of technology stuff, like working with printers, like the,
Yeah,
you know,
IT
different,
networking, yeah.
like all kinds of stuff like programming, computer programming and everything. And like, he thought that might be something he wanted to do. He did the program and then he was like, I can't sit still in a chair all day, so actually I don't want to do that. So those were really good, like,
Yeah.
you know, programs.
It's a good
And I know
program.
we have those here too.
I have one. So, while you talked about one of your favorite processes that you, and procedures that you've implemented, you know, since you've been here, that's actually not my favorite one. My favorite one is your new, crisis response manual, which I appreciate so much as an administrator. As an administrator that was in charge of a lockdown at the high school level when no other administrator was in this district last year. So could you walk us through that a little bit in your hopes in the safety and whatnot?
So I am working on updating. It's our it's called an EOP. It's an emergency operations procedure, and I am working on getting that updated so that every classroom has in their classroom. It's actually I don't know, a two-sided thing, flip folder thing. That has inside of it all of the different types of emergencies that we could possibly deal with in a school situation. So it really kind of gives staff direction on, you know, if we have to evacuate because of an earthquake, here's exactly what you need to do. If we're evacuating because of a fire, here's what you need to do. If there is a phone call and somebody says that there's a bomb or some sort of a suspicious device in your building, here's the steps that you need to follow. So I'm working on getting that process and procedure manual updated. It's a little time consuming, but it was important to me that we have something in the buildings. I've got the little folders ordered. It's just a matter of getting all that information inside and then out to the classrooms and teachers trained on what it is they need to do. So.
Anyone else have any questions? Yeah.
Just have one more question. I don't know about the middle school or high school because I only have twins that are in second grade, so I've only had the elementary school. But I know they took a hard hit between the end of last year and this year. A lot of transition, and yeah, a lot of movement. And there is a real fear of mine that our teachers are going to be severely burnt out by the end of this year, and we're going to lose some of our best teachers. Do you have anything planned to help with the morale within the schools, with the teachers specifically?
I'm hoping that being able to provide some extra staffing and get those processes going will help with the morale. I know that they are dealing with some extreme behaviors. I'm, constantly looking at, can we add an additional instructional assistant? Where can I pull money so that we can have some additional support in that building?
And I know money is where we're at, but do you have anything even just planned for appreciation towards these teachers? You know,
That's something that
so they can feel
right,
like we see them.
right, yeah.
I mean,
Something that I can work with Ms. Rhodes on, because
I
yeah,
think even
it's
just a little recognition would go a long way
okay.
with them.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Any last minute questions?
Thank you.
Oh, I had one.
Alright, so again, please fill out the survey. So I think the deadline is Wednesday? Or there is no deadline? Wednesday? And again, this was live streamed tonight, so people should be able to watch this as well to get feedback on Dawn and share their thoughts too. So please share it. Thank you.
Thanks
Thank you
for
guys
this.
so much.